Hello, I'm Michael Redmond, professional 9-dan Go player. In this video, I'm going to show you a game from the third round of the Ing Cup. The Ing Cup is a professional tournament sponsored by the Ing Chanchi Weiqi Educational Foundation. I posted a video about the first and second rounds of this tournament just a few days ago, so I'll put a link for that up there somewhere and in the description of the video. This game will be between Ichiriki Ryo, who is a Japanese professional 8-dan Go player, and his opponent is Tao Xinran, who is a Chinese player, an 8-dan also. And they both beat world champion players to get to the third round of this tournament. The Ing Cup starts with 30 people, and at the time of the third round it was 8 people, the final 8. The first and second rounds were played on the 8th and 9th of September 2020, and this third round was played on the 11th. I think the rest of the rounds will be played somewhere at the end of this year, so maybe December. Ichiriki is a Japanese player who is actually very special in that, well, first of all, his father is the owner-president of a big newspaper, and he went to one of the most prestigious universities in Japan when a lot of Go players don't even go to university, but he went to one of the best, which is called Waseda. And the story is he had outstanding grades, he speaks English, and after he graduated, he became a reporter in his father's media company. So maybe he's going to follow in his father's footsteps, but meanwhile, as he was becoming a reporter and starting this job, he also was winning titles in Japan. So it's pretty outstanding for him. Maybe a bit embarrassing for the rest of us, because he's just basically good at whatever he does. And so he's an outstanding Go player as well as academic. Ichiriki has the black stones in this game. Ichiriki's opponent in this game is Tao Xinran, Chinese professional 8-dan. And this person actually beat the champion of the previous tournament, the 8th Ing Cup, to get to the third round here. So white invaded the 3-3 point. And this attachment is one of the most complicated variations of this direct 3-3 joseki, because it's believed that black can cover here on the second line. This is the game variation, and extend. So if white had simply bumped against here, it is considered bad for black to extend here and allow white to cut at the 5th line. But if white has already played this exchange, which is considered to be a bad exchange for white, it becomes possible for black to get into that variation. So let's mark the exchange that I'm talking about. When white has played the marked stone for the black stone there, that exchange is considered to make this fight playable for black. So you will see this variation only when white has started with the attachment underneath. And when white has played this move, you generally see black covering here. I don't really advise people to get into this variation, whether you're playing with the white stones here or the black stones. Black can always avoid it by pulling back here or extending, or otherwise black can extend from the first point if black wants to keep it relatively simple. But Ichiriki, being a young player who has probably researched this variation fairly thoroughly, he didn't back off from this fighting variation. At this point of this, I don't really want to go into too much detail. I'll show you just one variation. In the game, white cut here. White also can try cutting here, in which case black will play here, and this makes miai, or interchangeable points, of this move and this move. If black can play one of those two, it's going to be good. In actual practice, white will start by extending here, and if black plays this key point in the corner, this doesn't quite work because white can capture a ladder. This is going to be a ladder. So black cannot do that, but will actually push here. White plays Hane again, and again if black plays here, this will be trouble. It'll be a ladder again. So black will not be able to do that. And at this point it branches out a little bit. Black has various moves to try. And this is the simplest variation that I'm going to show here. And black can still get an advantage if black gets to play a hane at s17. So white's going to play here. And this trade. And a fight like this. You can see that black is building a moyo on the right side of the board. And the fight will spread out towards the left. This is pretty much even. This is the more complicated variation, and there's some variations that I haven't shown you that will be even more complicated. So that's why I don't really advise most players to get into this fight. In the game, white cut here, black extended. White is not fully alive yet, so white played the hanetsugi. And black plays this move, which we did not even dream of until it was shown to us. Actually, I think it was AlphaGo who first suggested this move. The idea is that black really needs to play something there. A more common shape might be to play here, after which white will cut here. Otherwise, black can try connecting, but this leads to some complications when white plays here, and has the threat of a key point here, and also a key point here. This also is quite complicated variation. In the game, black played here, and if we just compare this move to this move, and white plays here, the way black captures this one stone is relatively loose, and white will have potential to play moves like this, or peep at this point at certain times. White has various forcing moves. Because the way black is captured in a net is a rather loose way of capturing. So the basic idea of this move is to improve how black captures that stone. So this is a ladder. It's just a ladder pointing down to the side of the board. So that's a pretty safe ladder for black. In some cases, it will be a ladder pointing in the other direction, but for the time being, that ladder favors white. So it's white's turn. White takes the large opening point, and black plays here, taking a position on the upper side, and then black splits the left side. This is pretty straightforward up to this point. This was a surprise to me. This move, for instance, the move that Katago suggested was this one, which is actually, both of these moves are ladder breaking moves. For instance, if black were to play something like this, white is threatening to escape from the ladder now. You can see that this ladder heading towards the edge of the board is not going to work because of that white stone there. So that's the idea of white's move. It will lead to a fight maybe like this. And this seems to be fairly playable for white. White will be able to escape out into the center. So that's the meaning of this move. This move also, the move suggested by Katago, also would be a ladder breaking move if black plays here, and white would be able to escape now. In this case, black would probably take the side territory like this, and it would switch to being a fight in the center of the board. So white would be losing some points on the upper side, but would maybe have an aggressive position in the center of the board, because black's group on the right here is not so strong either. So this is the game move, which was a ladder breaking move. This is the move suggested by a computer program, and I'm going to say this is the normal human-like move. This is reinforcing these white stones, making a nice territory there, putting some pressure on black on the left side. If black plays here, white would usually, when black has so many stones invested on the upper side, I would not really like the idea of starting a fight where there are so many black stones if I was white. So I would play something like this and hope to chisel it down a little bit, but be more focused on playing elsewhere. The big points, there's plenty of big points on the board. This would be what I would call a natural way for white to play. But white invaded here, and you would expect black maybe to do something about the ladder. I showed you an example of black playing here. Otherwise, black might play more strongly with something like this. You might be expecting something local, but no, black played here. Now this was an interesting move, which is going to be a ladder breaking move. Now if white plays here, the ladder is going to work in this direction. So that's the meaning of that black move. If white plays here, I think white should have answered this. This is such a big move. Black will be able to capture a ladder now, but white can sacrifice the upper side. That was probably going to be black's territory, more likely that it would be black's territory anyway. And white can play here. Again, white is taking a strong position on the left side, starting to attack black. And in return for giving black a big territory on the top, white did having black play this exchange, which is locally it's a terrible move for black, makes up for that. So I think this is good enough for white. In the game, white curled around here, and black got to play these forcing moves. So white answered that. This move here is a tesuji to make more forcing moves. If white had played something like this, it would still leave the cutting point here, so it wouldn't be very meaningful. So this is the shape move. And the game black simply took, which is a reasonable move. It might be more forceful if black had played here. And the value of this is that now white has to do something on the upper side. Like if white plays here now, this is just going to be so big. All those white stones are just dead there. So white's probably going to continue with something on the upper side. That means that black gets the lower left corner. And the upper side is not really that much damage for black anyway. Black's going to start building on the right side now. So black could have played this way to get sente, forcing white to play at 6, so that black can get this big point in the lower left corner at 7, or c3. In the game, black simply took and extended. And so this is a big move that is starting to threaten the eye space of this. It's a wall, but it doesn't have eye space yet. If black plays another move locally, white's going to be low in eye space. We'll see that happen actually. And white started a ko here. This is a bit adventurous. It would have been simpler just to play something like this, continue the opening. The game is pretty even at this point. It is a 7.5 point komi, so probably good for white slightly, but it's like the 1 point difference is pretty hard for a human like myself to see. Black cut here. So this was a very adventurous move. It looks dangerous for white. For instance, black cut here in the game, white is going to do something fancy. But let's say white tries to escape like this. White can escape through here. But this is going to give white weak groups on all sides. So for instance, let's say white plays here, black can extend here, extend here. Black has a fairly strong group on the right and is extending out in front of white into the center. And if black at any point plays this point, that white group in the upper left is not going to be alive locally. And so that's going to be a problem for white fairly soon. Another variation would be white playing at this point. This actually does not work very well because black can push through all the way here, and white's group on the upper side would die. White might get some attacking done here, but like the upper side is so big in this variation, it's not good for white. So the game white actually played here. I might have told you that the ladder works for black. Black plays here. And for the time being, actually, it's a ladder. So you might find it strange that white has played this move. For the time being, the ladder does favor black. It's going to hit some of these black stones in the lower left. But it turns out this move here, which is an Atari, is going to be a ladder breaking move. And white can escape. So this is a kind of an exciting little fight here. When white escapes like this, white is threatening to cut here next. So black answered that. And with curling around here, now white is threatening to play this point. When black gets surrounded, black needs to add a stone inside there, so that would be a bit painful. So black pushes through. And white played here. So black has taken a lot of profit on the upper side. so it's more than 20 points. White does have a nice territory in the lower left corner, and a little territory elsewhere. So if white can really push this black group around a lot, then it's still okay for white. Black attaches here, and here white pulls back. I think white's play in general in this area, on the right side of the board, was a bit slack. White could have extended here, for instance. And maybe I would expect something like this, with white threatening to play at A next. So that the meaning of that is that if white plays here with this stone at 7, white can play the double clamp here, and this would cut black off. Just to back off a little bit, when white plays here, if black plays here, white can surround it with this move. And for the time being, black isn't really strong enough to counterattack with cutting somewhere, because for the time being black's group is very weak. So it would be a difficult fight for black, I think. In the game, white pulled back, and black is going to live here on the side. In fact, at this point you can say that black is alive. In the game, white took 2 stones, black pushed here, and white pulled back. And at this point the black group is already alive. So I think it was pretty bad actually for white to allow black to live with Sente. It's already alive because in the game black played here. If white plays here, basically even if we imagine a white stone cutting black off, a white stone somewhere around here, white needs to protect this stone at 1, so white has to play something like this, and black can make a second eye here. So black has an eye on the side and an eye in the center here. In fact, black 4 is threatening to cut next, so it's almost, you could say it's Sente. So what white should have done with this move, instead of just taking the 2 stones. Now why did white take 2 stones? The answer for that is that if white does not take those 2 stones, black can always connect here and capture white. So that's a pretty big move. Therefore, white needs to play something, but white could have played here to have Sente. Black needs to do something about the cut. If black plays here, now white's already okay, like white could play away, and if black plays here now, white is connected up. If black plays this way, now already white has captured the 2 stones, and while the exchange for 1 and 4 might seem to be a bad exchange, or 1 and 2 you might say, it's not so bad when white pushes through here at some later time. You can see that black is sort of short of liberties all over, and having the stone at white at 5 is going to give white forcing moves at the marked points. And so it's reinforcing white in the center also. So although white will probably not play 5 immediately, but will play something on the left, white really wants to play this move at 7, which would give white a living shape there on the left side. So if white had played here, white would have kept the tempo. Another move that black could try would be this one, but already white has the option of playing away, or even if white plays here, it's so much better than the game in which white simply took 1 stone, took 2 stones. This is gote, it's Sente for black. Black could have attacked immediately. Instead he played here. He's looking at an attack on this white wall here, which is, for the time being, it's eyeless. And white should have protected the left side. This would have been a very big move. It's not only big as far as territory is concerned. When stones like this are not alive, when the upper left corner is not alive, it's going to be forced to play a lot of worthless points. They're actually called dame points, almost. So now black does play this. White can make 1 eye in the corner. That's all white has. It means that even though white has added 1 stone to that group, it's still weak. White still has a problem with that group. White attacks on the lower right. There was a number of moves white could have tried with this move. I'll just leave that. And this is really very, very exciting here. Naturally, the normal move would be just to play a hane, and then maybe extend here. This would be much more normal. There would be the threatened cut here, and so white could be looking at that by pushing here next if white gets an opportunity. Say black plays here. Maybe white would play here first. And this would be setting up to squeeze the black group on the right side just a little bit and to push here, making some eyes for white on the right side. But instead white attacked immediately. This became very, very sharp, you might say. Exciting. White is taking away the corner territory. So now the corner belongs to white. But when black plays here, white would really like to play here, but I guess it's a bit dangerous. For instance, if black plays something like this, you can see that white group in the center is completely eyeless, and this group here, it doesn't really have much in the way of eyes either. Like this, I'm talking about the group in the upper left. If white plays here, for instance, if we were to play this way, it would be just one eye for white. So white has one eye in the corner there. It is not completely alive. So that's going to be a problem for white with two weak groups there. I guess it might be difficult for white to handle the whole board position here. So white protected once, but that gave black this move. I think at this point black does have a slight lead. Just the fact that the corner, that white has lived in the corner, but it's a small territory. White still has these weak groups in the upper left and on the right side to deal with. So white has made one eye here. At this point, the group looks fairly safe. Like there's a potential eye on the right here, capturing the one black stone, and there's another eye there. So, for instance, when black plays here, if white had played something like this, then this group would have been pretty much alive. Like it's, if we surround it completely, there would be moves like this still, I guess, but I think it's close enough to be called alive. In the game, actually, white counterattacked here. This made the fight heat up a little bit, but it also sort of rebounds on white's group in the upper left, which is not alive yet. So black played here once, and this white group in the upper left is, if black plays one more move there, it's going to be very dangerous for white. So white added a stone here. With this, white is more or less alive. White is starting to make an eye. White could make an eye there with the marked point by playing at the marked point. But of course, playing moves like this move that white has just played here, it's a very small move as far as territory is concerned, whereas the move that black has played is, it's not really a territory move, but it is an active move that is one stone attacking white in the center of the board. So it's a move that's going to be useful. And the attack against this white group, for instance, could lead to black surrounding territory in this area, in which case the marked black stone would be coming into play. So it is one move forwards for black in the attack in the center of the board. And finally, black continues with this. This was, again, it was a chance for white to play safe. White could play here, for instance. You don't really see players play safe like this in top games, because like this, while this would live, I sort of doubt that it would win the game for white. Black is getting a nice territory on the lower side by attacking white. Black does have a lead in territory at this point. So white pushed through, but now this is going to get very, very dangerous for white. Black just covers from the outside, and white doesn't really want to do anything in the center of the board. Like if white moves out in this direction, of course black will move between the two groups, and then white will realize that that group in the upper left is not alive yet. Like next, black could be playing just about any move in the upper left would kill that white group. So white doesn't really want to be struggling in the center of the board and would like to cut black. In fact, white did cut black. And white cut black like this. but in this fight on the right side, it looks so dangerous for both sides. But black actually has forcing moves against the corner, like this would be forcing, this would be forcing. With these forcing moves, it becomes difficult for white to finish off that black group. White started with covering here. This is actually threatening black on the other side, so black answered here, but of course this is kind of a forcing move. White doesn't have time to answer it though. So white killed the black group. Locally this black group is just dead, but this is already bad for white because one might notice that this white group, it doesn't have very many outside liberties. Like all of the liberties are filled up here and filled up on this side too. Like the very few liberties on the outside that you can count. That means a semi, a race to capture, when there are not so many outside liberties, indicates that when there are a lot of inside liberties like these, potential inside liberties here, those liberties are good for the side who has an eye. And for the time being, black is the side who has an eye here. There are many variations of this race to capture, this semi, in which this eye will win the semi for black. So let's try to look at some of them. First of all, what if black cuts here? This actually would still be a winning move as far as the game is concerned, but white will be able to have an advantage in the semi. Like if white plays like this, this will be a ko for a seki. So black can play here. If white fills this point next, black will be dead. Or if black wins the ko, it's going to be a seki. So this would be, locally it would be a relatively good result for white, but if we look at the whole board, the whole center here, black is already cashed in by capturing these stones and is getting some extra territory in the center. And that's going to be enough for black, even if black loses that group on the right. In actual play, black might fight the ko, of course. So, but the point is that white 4 here, this move, with white 4 here was a vital point. This is the vital point in the center. And so instead of cutting here, black actually took that point. So why is this a vital point? This is because if white captures here, then really white does not have an eye. Like black could even finish white off with this way, and it's going to be like this, and let's just fill some liberties to show you what I'm talking about. All of the remaining liberties, basically they belong to black, and at this point white cannot fill anymore. So it's pretty hopeless. So that's why this is a vital point. It also is preparing to make a living shape or to start a ko, which is what happened in the game. So white connected here, and black took once. So black will be perfectly happy just to capture these stones, because like this fight started in an area that was not anyone's territory. If black can capture all of these white stones, that's well over 20 points, something like 25 points just in the local, and white will not be getting anything in return. So that would be good enough for black. But if white connects here, of course black is already alive, and so whatever black does, black could do this one again, and again this would be a pretty hopeless race to capture for white. Let's just do this one again. We can have black fill from this side this time, and you can see white's lost here. So this is just bad for white. So white played Antari here, challenging black to a ko. Black takes the ko, cuts, and white takes the ko. Black doesn't even need a ko thread here, black just plays here. So what's happening here is that if white connects here, black will simply continue the semi, the race to capture, and white just doesn't have enough liberties. White might play this way, at this point, already white has to fill these inside liberties in order to put black in Atari. And if white does so, white would be in Atari himself. So there's no way white can continue here. So white has to find some way to make an eye. There's two ways that white can try to do that. It could have been this one, or it could have been the game move, which is this one. White plays here. Again, white is making an eye at this point. Right in here, white's making an eye here. So if white can win the ko, white has hopes of making this a seki. Black takes the ko. It's just that white has to win the ko. It makes it very difficult for white. And at this point, white played that ko threat, and it was not forcing. So black plays here. It turns out whatever white does, looks like black's going to win by one move. So, for instance, if white plays here, to take away black's eye space, now we would follow up with something like this. White at some point will have to connect the ko. White doesn't have any. Has only one or two ko threats to speak of. So white will have to connect the ko, and it's going to be like this and like this. And if white fills from that side, it's going to be like this, and white cannot push anywhere. White's run out of places to push, and will lose by one move. So to go back, so white might try pushing from this side and making it a temporary seki. But then black will have enough liberties on the other side to push from this side. So black wins anyway. So there's just no way that white can win. Like maybe if white had an infinite number of ko threats, white could play this way and this way. But even then black would extend here, and that would extend black's moves also. So it's probably pretty hopeless for white. In the game, white throws in here. Black takes the ko. Black lived. Actually, black is pretty much alive there. And when black takes the ko now, black is offering these stones to white. Like black can, any way this turns out, it's going to be good for black now. Because if white connects here, and black connects, now white can capture these stones, but this white group is already dead. In fact, black can play away. So this would be too big, and black can afford to throw away 5 stones. So white plays a ko threat, and black finishes this off. It's already a losing position for white. So white tries to kill the one black group that white can kill is this one. They continue fighting the ko. White had to play all those ko threats. And it's basically a double ko. So when white finishes that ko, black's going to finish this ko. And it's actually only a one move difference. For instance, if white continues with this, black will play here, and white cannot do anything. It's again an eye with no eye for white. Or if white, for instance, plays here, black has various ways, but could just push from behind. And white's in Atari now, so black wins by one move. So in the end, it turned out to be kind of an example of how a group with an eye can quite often win the race to capture against a group with no eye. And that works especially well when there are a lot of inside liberties. That's very important, that there were a lot of inside liberties. And basically only these two were the outside liberties. So there was a shortage of outside liberties compared to a large number of inside liberties. And so that turned into a massacre. A very a spectacular game for Ichiriki. Very convincing win. And I think in this tournament it's the first in a long time for a Japanese player to be in the semifinals. There is a player from the Japanese Go Association in the semifinals, a Chinese Go player, a Korean Go player, and a player from a professional from Taiwan in the semifinals. So it's a very well balanced semifinals coming up at the end of this year. And I'll hope to cover that one also. The semifinals will be longer matches, so I think there will be best of 3 matches for the semifinals. And then after that, the finals will probably be best of fives. So that's something to look forward to. And that's it for this video. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. Sign up to my channel and give me a thumbs up if you liked the video.